It's Labor Day, and today we get to hang out with filmmaker Paul Osborne, who sort of carved out some time in his schedule to chat with us today. He is the filmmaker, the writer behind 10 Till Noon. He's one of the filmmakers behind Official Rejection, currently working on his film Favor, which I believe you just turned the corner on the final cut, or I mean, like it's picture locked or no, Paul?
Yes, it's finally picture locked on the 20th. So I'm thrilled to say we're doing post things now. You know, the score is going on, sound design's going on, and that's makes me very happy to to have that done. So,
congratulations!
That's really cool.
Yeah, congratulations! You know, and I guess what we want to do today, Paul, is for this chat, we want to just kind of, because we understand that you've been taking a look a little bit here and there at what we're doing with our Goodbye Promise release. So I guess we just wanted to start with some of the things that you've seen, some observations, and then we'll sort of use that as the framework for the whole conversation, because you have a lot of experience releasing 10 Till Noon, releasing Official Rejection. You're getting ready to release your next film. So, but let's just first start with the observations, and then we'll kind of see where we go from there.
Well, it's funny because you guys are fairly anti-festival. I mean, you make no bones about the fact that festivals aren't for me, blah 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 blah. And I think that there's certainly, I mean, you've seen Official Rejection. There are definitely flaws in the festival system, and there's different types of festivals. There's a Sundance type festival is very different than a Phoenix, and it's very different than an Indie Fest. And there's there's no one uniform festival machine. But if you don't go to festivals for an indie film, especially one under $100,000, it's kind of difficult. How do you reach your audience? Because festivals give you access, when you get in, of course, access to their audience through live events, through essentially a small theatrical type release live event type thing. So I was curious how you guys were going to do this, and I was actually really impressed. One, with doing your screening. You ran for a week, I think, at downtown Indy, which was great. I was really impressed because basically, a lot of filmmakers will do a private screening for their family, friends, cast, and crew. Wait a few months, and then they have their festival premiere. You basically folded it all into one thing. You folded it into your release. So basically, you completely galvanized all the people that wanted to see your movie into the theatrical experience, into the actual release itself, and I thought that was brilliant. I think you got really lucky with a good LA Times review. You never know what critics, especially from major papers, are going to say about any indie film, and you got such a great review. So that was really a win, I thought. And I've seen one other filmmaker do that, where he said, forget festivals, I'm going to release the film. It was a film called No Footing. He did it. It was just a one-night screening, but he made back the majority of his investors' money. I think he made back all his investors' money.
Wow.
Just in the one night. They had a big 2,000-seat theater. Everybody came, and they managed to get in the black with the investor. And at that point, he was really free to do whatever he wanted with the film. He did some festivals, did some curated screenings, but he could do whatever he wanted to. PBS wanted the film, I think, at one point. He's free to get it out to people, regardless of the fiduciary entrapments. And I think any smaller film really has that, especially one that's crowdfunded. I don't know how much you have to make back to get into the black, but it's probably not a tremendous amount. So that allows you to really play with different release models. And then when you did the Indiegogo thing, I was sort of like, how's that? I mean, I remember I was seeing it. We released our film through Indiegogo, and I was like, huh? How do you release a film through crowdfunding? Are you raising money to release the film? And no, you've released the film. And then I read actually what you did, and I thought, that's just brilliant. That's just really brilliant, because it allows people to, basically, a fixed amount of time, the film will be available online for a very low amount of money. And you were able to set it lower than most players do. The Dynamo player, and I think Distrify, it's like a $2, $3, $4 minimum. You set it where it's as low as it can go, $1, which I think is great. And then, because of the crowdfunding platform, instead of putting a little, you like the movie, donate here on my page, which no one ever goes for. It's in a way that invites you to donate a little more, if you want to, which is obviously working, because people are. I think what your average contributor is $7 or $8.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's been sort of fluctuating, between high $6.80 and over $8. So it's kind of been fluctuating back and forth in that.
But range. It's over $2.
Yeah.
It's over $2, and your first 100, discount views of $1, you haven't even hit that cap yet, right? I know when I watched it, I went for the $2. I know that much. I'm not going to go for the cheapy matinee, whatever that is. I'll go for at least go for the $2. I mean, still really cheap.
But yeah. Karen was like, I think Karen wanted to cap that, because originally what I wanted to do is I wanted to say, okay, we had 227 people support the initial crowdfunding effort for Goodbye Promise. And so I figured, okay, let's have the first 227 people, 228 people will get the movie for $1. Because you just figure you do something like this, and it's so affordable, so easy to access that you're going to get a lot of people on board.
Right.
And certainly what we learned, it's not that easy. Even in a $1 transaction, it's still challenging. So. Yeah. Karen was like, no, let's shoot that number way down. Forget 200 people. She's like, no way, let's do like 50 or 20 or whatever. And then we sort of settled on 100, and it turns out the lady's right. We should go even lower. We should keep it maybe 25. 25 is a good way to trigger it. So,
but it doesn't seem to have impacted your rentals at all. I mean.
Yeah. I guess what I'm seeing is it'd be cool if, every now and then we could sort of use it maybe as more of a device. So the fact that it's taken us so long to run down, because I guess, we're hoping that we get a lot of folks to jump on early, so that hasn't happened. So I guess in terms of what our audience scale is, we just want to be able to trigger the device. So then we can start saying, okay, there's only a few slots left, like there's 10 slots left for you to see the film for $1. So forth and so on. So it just gives us another something to sort of advertise or promote, and have that scarcity. Use scarcity in our favor to kind of hopefully draw more people to jump on board and go along for the ride.
I think that's great. And you have the 30-day window also, which I think you're going to see a lot more rentals towards the end. I think the other thing I was going to say about this is, in addition to setting your own price point and doing it in an unconventional way, which it's a little hard to understand, but it's also newsworthy. You've gotten news coverage because it's such an interesting way to go, and support, I guess, from Indiegogo. I mean, they put you on the front page, right? At some point, I mean, that's publicity is better than advertising. It's cheaper, and it goes just as far, if not further. Also, because you're also journalists with this right here. The whole transparency thing, and doing it in an innovative way, and it's part of your mission, and it all really ties nicely together. And the best part is, when this is over, you have an email list of everybody who's watched your film, don't you?
Yeah, you're the first one.
Or you can grab their emails, and you can hit them two ways. I mean, it's kind of brilliant in that way. The only thing where I think you might have done something differently that I would have done. I would have recommended, had I been involved earlier, or I think maybe in hindsight might have worked better, was if you set the goal lower. I think you knew initially when you were doing this, there's no way you're going to hit $1 million. That would be a pretty rare thing. And if you did hit $1 million, it wouldn't be prevented by setting a lower goal. I think I get why you set it for $1 million. I get sort of the idea of reaching for the stars. But if you'd set it for 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, a lower, more attainable goal. Two things. One, even though this is Indiegogo, not Kickstarter, where you don't have the all or nothing aspect of it. I mean, you still get the money, just they take a larger percentage of it slightly if you don't hit your goal. If you set it lower, you still might get that bum rush of help them make their goal, jump in that last few days kind of thing. The other thing is, this would have added to your transparency. If you set the goal at approximately your break-even point, you said, help us, if we are successful in getting to 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever your break-even point is, which I'm assuming is probably under 20. If you set it for, there you go, help us get to our break-even point. If we're successful raising this goal, this film gets to be, it's in the black, and that's the goal of every indie film. No indie film gets to be in the black these days, and if we get to this threshold, then there we are. And then if we get 5,000 above that, we'll be able to do a DVD release. If we get 5,000 above that, we'll do a Blu-ray release. And 5,000 above that, we can play a city. And you could I think you could have made the goal part of the story of the release a little more, and it also would have added to your transparency, which is part of it. The thing about your movie is the core audience for that film is people within the industry. It just is. The subject matter, same with official rejection. It was the same thing. It's like, yeah, anybody could see it, and they'd probably like it if they sat down for it, but they probably won't sit down for it in the first place because they're going to go, oh, it's about an actor in L.A., and he's giving up his dream of being an actor. And every actor in L.A., if they saw it, would get something out of it. I think every filmmaker would, but that's a small core audience. Now, the good news is that that niche audience is big enough to make the film successful. But I think that, because having a goal that's lower, that ties into your break-even point and some business aspect of it, or it all ties together. Like, oh well, I'm a filmmaker in LA now. I want to see it even more because I can help them get in the black, and you might have to get people like doubling down a little bit, because they could get to. That's the only thing I would say that I would have changed.
Yeah, and we wavered back and forth on that. And do you think that scares people away, that $1 million, because they're like, oh, there's no chance that's going to happen. Why should I pitch in? But if they saw 15,000, like you said, they might double down and they might really try to push it. You think it's going to scare people away?
I think if they read the thing, they would get it, because you do explain it. You go, it's just sort of it's a symbolic, threshold.
Right.
If people don't read it, there is a danger of them saying these guys are just naive idiots. They think they're going to make $1 million with their little indie movie because they threw it up for a month. Yeah. 1 million people are going to go to Indiegogo, sign up for the site. It doesn't even have 1 million backers overall, and they're going to go on and, they could think that. I mean, I got it. I read it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then the 30 days to 1 million is a really cool, headline banner. But I think there's a danger in that people just going, yeah, you're idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not even in LA, are you? You're in, yeah, goodbye. There's that danger.
We're chasing unicorns and rainbows somewhere. Yeah.
I like it. Well, it's like the official rejection. Just a bunch of whiners. Oh, you didn't get to Sundance. Well, maybe your movie sucks. That's why you didn't get. There you go, Paul. There you go. Yeah. I get that sometimes.
Wow.
No, I think it's a great point. And we wavered back and forth on that, and we went for the $1 million. But yeah. I think it's a great point.
It's interesting. One thing we've certainly seen on sort of this path that we've taken, and then also sort of taking time off, pushing our own film to get behind Jack Marchetti and his campaign, is I think something that's coming to the forefront maybe more than it has. So, or maybe we're just seeing it clear now. Is when you go to crowdfunding, there's really there's the sort of the film that you're trying to make. And sort of that story about the film, but then there's also your own personal story and your own story you're trying to take. And as we initiated this release, there was another potential story to possibly tell with this release, and we just had a couple things that that didn't quite hit. There's some things happening on the Indiegogo side of things that we're not seeing. So we weren't able to go all in on this particular campaign. You kind of have to kind of see, you got to assess and see what's happening, and so we're at a point where we're just going to ride it as far as we're going to ride it out, see how far we can push it, and then sort of let the dust settle, see what we have, and then essentially pick it up and go from there. So, but totally agree with what you're saying. Yeah. In terms of setting a lower goal.
And we feel that there will be someone else that'll do it and have a much bigger audience and be successful. Maybe not $1 million for it, but if we set precedence with it, great. That's wonderful. But yeah, absolutely. I hear what you're saying, and hopefully someone else can do it and achieve more.
Even if they don't, I still think it's definitely a worthwhile experiment. And we're in the wild west of indie distribution right now. There's no pathway. If you think you know how to do this, you don't. It's all trial and error. And when you have a smaller movie, you can sort of experiment and play with things and take risks. I've had friends who have much bigger movies. They have $500,000, $1 million, $2 million films, and they're kind of trapped in needing to play things out the more traditional way. They have to have a major festival premiere. They have to get a sales agent. They have to at least see the major distributors, and if they don't, then they have to find a way to make sure it gets onto a major platform or a cable channel or iTunes, and they have to show all the work, and so it handcuffs them in a lot of ways. They can't just say, hey, here's a cool way to try to do this, because the old ways don't really work any better than the new ways or the untried ways. It's all kind of a jumble right now. Having something small, if you're going to have a small film, I mean, look, if you are offered $1 million to make a movie, take the damn $1 million to make the movie. having made a film for very little money, I would always prefer more money. You make a better movie. You just do. Technically, you can make it. You take more time making it. You have a bigger crew. But the one big advantage to a smaller film is that you are free. You can, the film does not have to be about making money back, especially if it's through crowdfunding. And to get back to what you were saying earlier, David, the coolest thing about crowdfunding isn't just that you get the money, it's that it becomes your first piece of publicity. It becomes your first piece of press. And it starts the story of your film. And your story is your story, not the movie, but your story is tied up in that. It's a terrific way to start. We kickstarted Favor, and we made the money to make the movie. That certainly helped. But we also got most of our crew, that way. People that I knew who were like, "Oh, I didn't know you were making a film. When are you shooting? Oh my God, I would love to be involved." And I got our UPM that way. I got our producer that way. I got my sound and camera guy on that. I mean, we got everybody. So almost everybody came through because they knew about what we were doing and got excited about what we were doing because of the Kickstarter. Like, oh my God, this is going to be great. It's happening. And everyone wants to get on a moving train, and that's really a way to get it going, to have it leave the station.
This is a good opportunity to go back into your story a little bit, Paul, and hear a little bit about releasing 10 till noon in a traditional way. Traditional distribution, sort of what you learned there, and the things that you wanted to sort of adjust or adapt and change with as you finished Official Rejection and released that. Can we just talk about those two things?
Well, 10 till noon, we signed our distribution deal in December of 2006. I think maybe it was earlier, but it was in the end of 2006. We came out in 2007. We did a festival run. We had a sales agent and the whole bit, and that was right around the time when things were really starting to circle the drain with traditional distribution. The film cost. I could talk about these numbers now because the film cost $75,000 in cash. We had another $125,000 in deferments, and then Scott Storm, who directed it, and we were both the executive producers / the studio. We each ended up putting in, I think, about 10 grand each that we could never. It was never on the books. It was just we had to keep, like, if we had an overage, we would pay for it out of cash. So I think the festival circuit and the overages on making the film were about 20 grand between us. So that was about where we were. So about 200 grand was the nut of the movie. The cash nut was 75, and our distributor offered us the best distribution offer we got was for 60 up front. That was the best offer, and we were like, because we're thinking offers, hundreds, thousands, and blah blah blah. That was the top offer, and now an offer like that for a much bigger film is unheard of. I think IFC offers, I've heard 15,000 for all rights. So it's basically like you're agreeing to never make money on your film. We signed with a fairly new distributor called Radio London Films. They were, to give you some background on them, they're owned by Galt Capital, which is at the time at least, is the largest private investment group in the world. They had like $6 billion in assets. They owned like one particle of this prescription. So every time somebody got their Xanax, they got like 1 penny, and it was all this they invested in these very soft market items, so that they basically just earned. There was no work involved really. Like, people need their prescription to this or they need this component, so they're always going to make cash. Somewhere along the line, they got the idea to run a distribution company, so we can buy these cheap indie films no one wants for like nothing, and then we can spit them out on video. And so they had this. I think it was, I forget the name of the company, but it was New Light, I think it was. They had all these crappy movies that no one wanted, that no one could sell, and they basically threw them out on video. And they found that if they had a certain number of films per month and they ran it through an existing pipeline, they could always guarantee a minimum return. Like if they put out 4 movies a month, they could always make sure they got 10 grand back. They'd always move a minimum of X number of units, like X number of cable sales, blah, 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 blah. So again, it became a soft market thing where they could just churn them out, no thought, and we can make money. they did that, but then the head guy at the company found that when he went to cocktail parties and he said, yeah, I own a piece of a prescription, no one gave a crap. But when he said, hey, I produce and release movies, they went, oh, really? Tell me more. He fell in love with the business. So he scrapped that label, came up with Radio London, and really set out to try to do it the right way. They got a staff of really energetic people. They went to film festivals. They courted a bunch of movies. One was ours, and they were highballing with $60,000. That was actually we didn't realize that was a highball. Our other offers were like 20, 25. So we eventually signed with them, and in the beginning they were okay. And what was funny was they didn't want to release the film theatrically. They were TV and DVD primarily. This was before the internet streaming, iTunes, or really much of anything. So they wanted to do DVD and television, and I said, well, if you're going to do that, do you want our theatrical rights? They said, well, we want all domestic rights. And I said, well, if you're not going to put it in theaters, we want to retain domestic rights. And they said, well, why? So maybe I'll raise $10,000 and put it in a theater. That's not going to hurt your DVD sales, so what do you care? So they got really excited about this, and they said, tell you what, we'll give you a certain amount of money. We'll give you $15,000, nothing, to put towards the theatrical release. And I said, great, but we still want to retain theatrical rights. So we'll put your name on it, your logo on it. And, well, actually, no, back up. He said, we'll put it in theaters, we'll give you this money, we want you to do all the work, and we want to watch. And I said, why do you want me to do all the work? I said, because we don't know how to do it. We've never done it before. And I said, well, I've never done it before either. And he said, but no one's going to care more than you. So you do it, and then we'll watch. We just want to be in the loop. We want to see it happen. So that's what I said. We want to keep the theatrical rights. I don't want to have to go. I'll CC you on everything. I'll put your logo on everything. It'll be officially your movie. But I don't want to have to go through you for every micro decision. I don't want to have to consult you on the poster or what reviews we're using or where our trailer placement is, because I'm going to have to be doing this pretty much, Scott and I, on our own. And there's too much work to do without having to add in a layer of approval. And they said, fine. So Scott and I actually managed the theatrical. It was so much work that it put me in the hospital at one point. I ended up in the ER, and they admitted me for a couple of days, and I was like, and I'm still on my cell phone, like telling Scott where to go. Like, sorry, I can't do the poster run. Can you go? It was bad. We realized at one point we opened up at the Sunset 5, which is now closed, and we realized we put an ad in LA Weekly, but we didn't put an ad, I think, in one of the other local free papers. And I realized it, and I was like, damn it, and they have kiosks all over that area. So at 3 in the morning, the day we opened, I went and found all of them. I opened them up, and I put a postcard inside. So it looked like we paid for an insert. We put it right next to our review, which was favorable. And I did that I was sneaking around doing it for every kiosk in West LA, or West Hollywood, where it was. That was what we did. So it was a good experience at first, but what happened was, you don't really get any money past your advance, first of all. They initially told us we were doing really well. The theatrical thing didn't make any money. That never happens. You never make money on that. But it's a good promotional mechanism to get the word out for your DVD and for your television. I mean, you get reviews and people see it, and it's a real movie that plays theaters, blah, 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 blah. So that was fine, and we came out on DVD, and I think we moved like 50,000 units in the U.S. I mean, Walmart and Sam's Club and Best Buy and Blockbuster initially rejected it and took 500 of them, and like Target took it, and we had a whole bunch. We got this. They told us, oh, we're doing well. We're already in the black, and they sent us a report that we were in the black, and they'd already made like $250,000 profit from the first quarter the film was out. And then all of a sudden, they said, no, you didn't make any money. And we said, but yeah, we did. You sent us the report. Here it is. Here's the report. Well, no, that's wrong. That's the wrong report. No, that's not it. We're gonna need you to send your advance back. Yeah. It's kind of fascinating. It was all tied up with some sequel talk. They started talking sequel, and we said, well, that's fine. They said, well, start making it. They said, well, we're not going to do it for free, and we own the sequel rights, and blah, blah, blah. And as soon as that dried up, the same day, it turned around and said, your film didn't make any money, and there you go, and we want some of our advance back to cover it, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you're not getting your advance back. We use it to pay our actors. Whatever. It was a disaster. That was a good experience from what I've heard with traditional distribution. I mean, they really do. When you go through a traditional distributor, they take all the control, all of it. And once they've got the film, there's really little reason for them to deal with you or to kowtow to you in any way. I mean, they're really it's in their good graces if it happens. So if they need you to promote the film, they need you to go on the circuit, talk about it, whatever. Well, everything's great, blah blah blah. The second that they don't need you anymore, it's really up to them. And I think what happened with our distributor was they just got disenchanted with the business because it was created on a whim. I think they don't think they're operational anymore. At least they're not acquiring and releasing any new movies. Well, that's what happened. So it was there was no control or very little control once the theatrical was over, and yeah, people saw the movie, but we were still way in the red on that film. They got us in trouble with the Screen Actors Guild. It was bad.
Just real quick, if I can interrupt for a moment, is that part of a normal contract that if something doesn't happen by a certain date, then they get that advance back? Do you know that that's play money for a little while, or that's not?
No, it's not. It was not. It was really them just being vindictive and weird, and it was a very strange situation. They were also contracted to, and this was back then, SAG made, whenever you sign with a distributor, they made the distributor sign an assumption agreement for residuals. They said, look, we don't trust producers to pay residuals, so we're going to get it at the source. So the money that producers would normally pay, the distributor is supposed to retain and send directly to SAG. And they signed it. It's part of their contract. That's a whole deal. Yeah. I don't think they do that. I don't think they make them do that anymore. That at the time you had to do it that way, and Radio London refused to pay the SAG residuals, even though we could see the line item these are the residuals to go to SAG on our little thing they gave us, and they never sent it to them. And so SAG came to us and said, "Where's the residuals?" And we said, "The people you made sign the responsibility for it haven't paid them." So we forwarded all the emails to SAG, and SAG went after them, and they were saying, "Well, if you want us to pay your residuals, you better give us the money back." It became that again, and it was a big mess. This is the first time I've talked publicly, by the way, about this.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean,
thank you, man.
I mean, and that's the whole thing is doing film covers for the last 3.5 years. It's stories like this that just. Right. That have made it so difficult to say, hey, you know what? Let's go that traditional route. It just, I mean, what are we supposed to say when we hear stories like this? It's just like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, and I can only imagine the aggravation that you had to go through. That's drawn out over so long, right. and
the lost sleep, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, they haven't. The thing that really sucks is they haven't gone beyond the DVD sales at all. They haven't done any television. They haven't done any. It's not available on iTunes, and we have to wait until 2016 until we get the film back. And once we get the film back, we'll take it and throw it on iTunes. We'll put it on Amazon, and at the time we'll see. We'll get it out there. But right now, if you want to see that film, you can either contact me for a live event screening because we own the theatrical rights still. We still have those, or you can buy or rent the DVD on either Amazon or Netflix, but it's not available streaming on Netflix, and it's probably not going to be. And if you do buy it, we don't get any money, so feel free to pirate it if you want. I won't tell anybody. I can't send you a copy, but to review it. But it doesn't. People say, "Oh, I'll buy the film to support you." I'm like, you know what? It's great if you want to buy it, but why don't you rent it first? Because it doesn't really impact me financially at all. It just helps people that screwed me over. Flash forward to official rejection, and I think with traditional, I think you're okay, provided the distributor is if they're big enough. If Paramount wants your film, give them your film, even if it's a crappy deal, because you can go, my film's with Paramount. I think at least at the $20,000 and under level. There's the size of the distributor. I think also there's the financial deal. I mean, if you make enough to get your film in the black off the advance, well, then you have to consider that. I mean, it may not be your main goal to make money. Your main goal may be to get seen, or your main goal may be to increase your social networking audience, or your main goal may be to get your next film made. And if that's the case, you know, getting a giant advance may not be what you need. But if you have investors and, you know, someone says up and says, hey, your $500,000 film, we're going to give you $750,000 up front, you're going to be in the black. That's not a bad deal. So I think you have to weigh what you have. But for me, I don't think I'll ever do traditional distribution again unless the advance, one, covers everything we spent, plus a solid profit, and two, we retain some measure of control or guarantee about it, and three, that they do really take all the responsibilities, legal responsibilities off me. They sign an agreement saying anything they screw up is on them. You know, that's I think that's something that but otherwise I would always try to go with a hybrid model. It's a lot more work, but you know, you have a lot more control. It's a lot more satisfying, and that's what we did with official rejection. You know, we were facing really at that time, you know, documentary 3 years later, we were really facing the best we were going to do is like IFC with hardly any advance. They would take all rights, probably only put us on iTunes with no advertising, and then if we didn't do well, they'd just bury the movie. It's the way they do with a lot of films. We were facing that kind of a thing, so we were looking at self-distribution, and we actually lucked into something really cool. What happened with us was one of the executives that Without a Box was at a festival, and they official rejection, some film about film festivals, I have to see this is going to suck. And this guy went and saw it, and he loved it. He sat in the front row, and he loved the film. He was a high Without a Box, high-ranking executive dude. And he met us afterwards and said, have you thought about going out through Amazon's CreateSpace? And I said, not really. And he goes, well, here's the deal. Amazon owns IMDb, and they also own Without a Box. And they're looking for a CreateSpace success story right now. So if you do a 3-month exclusive Amazon window, we'll promote you through Without a Box. We'll promote you through IMDb. We'll send out blasts to our filmmakers. And your primary audience is filmmakers. We have 400,000 of them on our email list that we email every week. Wow. So we'll basically give you access directly to your audience through our, you know, branding or whatever it is, you know, their official name, which is a little bit different than mine. They've heard of Without a Box, and put them towards your film if you do 3 months of this. At one point, I spoke with a sales agent who was talking to me about traditional distribution, and I mentioned this particular potential deal, and he goes, you know what? That's actually better than anything I'm going to offer you. Because I hate to lose money, but the high end of that is much better for you than anything I could see happening with the film for you through my traditional pathway. So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up doing a 3-month window with Amazon, and we timed it to, we had a great festival run, and we timed it to what we thought was going to be our last festival, which was Stars Denver. We was a big festival, and my wife and I are both from there, and so we took the film there and had 3 really huge screenings, and we were able to say at our last one, by the way, it comes out tomorrow. And that helped. We got a lot of reviews right around that time, and it all sort of launched off. We didn't get the support from Without a Box that I wanted us to get, because I think they were worried a little bit about being, you know, too salesy. But we got on a lot of blasts, and they definitely didn't hurt us.
Wow.
Oh. Very cool.
Yeah,
Speechless you are. Did any of that make sense? Am I using nouns at all?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about whatever contract.
Stop it down.
Where you had to give back this money, or at least they asked for it back, and I'm just that's why I was just, my mind's still spinning on that. So
sorry.
How scary would that be?
You don't have to give it back. That's the thing.
Right.
You don't have to. They can tell you to give it back. You don't have to give it back.
Sure, but they can also take you to court and you know, yeah.
But it's not in your contract that you have to meet benchmarks that you've earned the money. They just go, hey, you know, we want this, you know, give your money back. And you're like, you know, no. Well, I think it was, if they're asking for the money back, we're not going to ask for money from them.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
That's certainly the defensive. It's like, well, why don't you pay our secretary? Well, why don't you get the money back?
Right.
Well, you know, clearly you owe us, you know, $30,000. Well, clearly you're not looking at the books I've got. You owe us $30,000.
Right.
That was the way they, you know, look, businessmen, guys in suits are very interesting when dealing with other human beings. You don't tend to get a fair shake. They're not really on your team. They're on their team. They have their own agendas. But that's true with most people in the business. They have their own agendas, and they're not necessarily the betterment of your film or your career.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. We're talking official rejection. We're talking film festivals. I know you said at the top that we're, blatantly like against film festivals or like open, and
seems to be the case. That's my impression of you.
Well, I think you more so than me. I think I favor a little more to the other side, but I see the logic of it.
No. I mean, we love film festivals. We're big supporters of Holly Shorts. Those guys are friends of ours, and we love that experience every year. So it's not like we're totally saying like no to film festivals. But we're at a point where we don't necessarily have $10,000 or $20,000 that we can then take 6 months off and visit, go to film festival to film festival to film festival. We're just not in that position currently. So that's a big part of it. But really the biggest reason is just that window of time. We just feel like we just want to give people access to the film instantly. Especially for such a small film. We're coming from a point of view where we have just a small film, and we just want to start getting people to see it. It's taken us 2 years longer to complete the film than we thought it was going to take. So it's like we don't want to spend another year, keeping people away from it. So, with this film at this time, it's like, and we've also said along the way, like nothing's guaranteed in terms of any film festivals. We don't know if any of the larger film festivals that we need to get into, we don't know if they would say, yes, we want to play this movie.
Sure.
Nothing's guaranteed. So it's just like, we're not going to wait 3 to 6 months to find out, just to get all the rejections and spend that money on that when we sort of devise the way to say, okay, we're just going to bypass that, go right to the audience, start playing the movie. If at some point film festivals, see the film, the programmers, if they see it and say, look, we really love the film, we love to, we love to screen it, bring you guys out, that sort of thing. If that sort of stuff happens after we start getting it seen, then that's fine. But generally, the game that they play is they want the premiere, they want the exclusivity. They don't necessarily want you selling DVDs, selling merchandise, that sort of thing. Like they want to kind of control. And we understand that that's part of what they have to do, but it doesn't mean that we want to play by those rules, play that game. It doesn't mean that it's not going to stop us from sort of devising our own way to go about it and seeing. Because we're yes, we've done film careers for the last few years, but at the heart of it, we have a film that we shot for nothing. Like there was no production budget, so we know what we have, and we're just being honest. We're assessing it, and we're just saying, okay, we'll start from scratch, and we'll just start getting people to see it. That's where we're coming from.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're now at like $2,100 for the release, something around that price, and we could easily spend that on festival submissions and maybe going to fly to one and the hotel and all that. So. I mean, we are lucky in the sense that we do have a platform where we can build some sort of an audience. It's not that big, but we do have some sort of a platform. But I mean, in terms of like the actual money, we probably would have spent that much. So I just feel that this is the better way to do it. Even if it's not.
There's no one way to do this. That's the nice thing. And like I said, you can do this without festivals. I mean, you're doing it without festivals, obviously, and you're doing quite well with it. I mean, it's interesting that you're making a little bit of money, and you haven't done festivals, and I think a lot of films that have done festivals haven't made a dime or they've lost money. It's kind of interesting. It depends on what your goals are, and I think, as you said, it depends on what the movie is. This may not be a festival movie.
Right.
There are more than 100 ways to skin a cat. I think one thing is you always want to look. People tend to look at the short term. They tend to look at the short term in terms of, well, we're doing our release this way, and we want to get the film out to people. We have 6 months, 8, whatever. Or at the festivals, we're gonna, you think about festivals, you think about the first time you submit to festivals. The second time you submit to festivals, you've been on the circuit once, you go again, it's a lot easier. A lot of festivals know you, they know your work, and you can have fees waived, and they're more likely to fly you out, and you spend less money. We spent half the money on official rejection that we did on 10 Till Noon, and we went to twice as many festivals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you tend to build an audience. The audiences locally at these festivals remember you. And you have a brand. If you go to these festivals and you're not a douchebag, and you do right by them, and then you're in a situation where they know you. They're not going to charge you a fee to submit, or they'll charge you a reduced fee. It's like it's going to go straight to the top people. It's not going to go through the lower level. You know, they don't take it from their point of view. They don't know who you are, and you want to play their festival. Well, you have to be vetted. They have to look at the film. Who is this person? I don't know this person. Let's look at the film. Is it any good? They're going to run through low-level programmers, screeners, then mid-level, then it's going to go to the top, and then they have to look at it, and it's in competition with other films to get into that slot. If they know you, though, it's a lot easier. It goes straight to the top people, generally, and they're not going to grade you on a curve nearly as much. If they like the film, it behooves them to program it, because if their local audience knows you or remembers your previous movie, then that's the same for them as programming a celebrity. They can say, hey, remember those guys at Goodbye Promise? Well, the sequel, Hello, Dolly, is now playing, you know, 2 years later. And,
Hello, Nashville.
and they're going to come back out again. And you're cheaper to bring out than, you know, Meg Tilly. So that's just the way it's going to work. It behooves them to do it. And so, and with a film like Goodbye Promise, okay, yeah, it's making a certain amount of money now, but if you have it available in some long-term way on Distrify or DVD or something where it just literally sits there, you make a film 2 years later, people like that, they're going to go, well, what else have David and Karen done? Oh, this other film, Goodbye Promise. Oh, yeah, I heard that was good. And they're going to watch that. So that's going to boost Goodbye Promise's sales down the line. A friend of mine made a film at the same time as Official Rejection. It's called Investigating the Afterlife. It's a documentary about ghost hunting. He tried to take he's an amateur ghost hunter. He went off and he did, you know, here's how you do it. And kind of did it in a very non-sensational way. Made it the same time as Official Rejection, released it about the same time. He did a couple festivals. He didn't really push it. He kind of wasn't in love with the process. It really wasn't his machine to go out there and be a huckster mentally. So, you know, he did a trailer for it and did a couple festivals, and it's like, yeah, I'm just going to put it up on Amazon. Did Create Space. He put it up on DVD, and he hit the little button so it's available on Amazon on demand, and it's sat with almost no advertising at all. And it's been there for about 3 years, and about 6 months ago, it suddenly started taking off. Just all on its own. It's suddenly like his rentals and mostly his video on demand stuff, but also DVD sales, it all just jumped. So he's getting, you know, a couple hundred rentals purchases a month all of a sudden, down from like 4. And it's been really steady for about 6 months. And it seems to coincide with about the time that the video on demand Amazon button ended up on PlayStation 3. But whatever the reason, it's not like it started and went down. It stayed very steady. It's become a little bit of a hit for him.
Oh, very cool.
It's making a solid, keeps the indie film lights on to, have a small amount of income coming in. So thinking in release, it's always better to think not just your initial burst where you make the more flashy pile of cash, but also long term. You have 5 or 6 films out there earning a steady amount. Yeah, you're not going to be able to live on it, but that's something. Helps you get your next film made, or helps you release the next movie, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is sort of us putting the stake in the ground. Just starting off with this release, like you said, getting some of the news coverage we've gotten so far. Just creating awareness for the film, and we're just going to ride it all the way down these last 9 days, whatever, and just see how far we can push it. And in addition to compiling a small list of email addresses, which we can later. Maybe at one point to say, hey, here's the DVD, it's now available, because right now it's only available streaming. So no one else really owns the film. We still own the rights. We've created this little window of ours, 30-day window, and it's just like, then we can just take it on to the next step. So and we can still get it on to more and more platforms. And we'll see. We don't know if film festivals are going to approach us. They have before the release. It's hard to say what's going to happen on that front. So we still have plenty of options in front of us. But yeah, it's sort of an interesting, clever way to sort of, build an email list with the release.
Yeah, sure. And because you have a 30-day window, you've kept some exclusivity. I think there's value in being withholding, at least in the beginning. Mm-hmm. You can only see it at the downtown indie in theaters. You can only see it over our Indiegogo. And later you come out with DVD. Have you considered this? Have you considered, instead of doing festivals, have you considered a college tour?
Well, we thought about that in terms of we wanted to approach them regarding Film Courage as building a platform. But
sure.
That's a great, I mean, there are we've investigated it somewhat, but more in terms of Film Courage and talking crowdfunding. Because Marty Lang of a Rising Star Movie, he was nice enough to have us speak at his school, Quinnipiac, in Connecticut. And so we had a great time, and we just felt really honored to do that, and that sparked an interest in us. So that was something that we, might consider. But that's a great idea, you know, in terms of.
Yeah, I know that the Boondock Saints, was basically a film that was nowhere until Troy Duffy did a college tour with the movie, because and the word of mouth just really took off from there. Colleges were happy to free movie, filmmakers going to come out. That's great, and you guys have the Film Courage angle. You're like, hey, we're filmmakers involved in learning about alternative distribution and all the new, social media, all these new ways of doing things. You have value in that, and coming and presenting your movie to them, to the students, and say, well, and do the talk and say, hey, here's how we released it, but here's the movie. They also see the movie, so that spreads word of mouth. The college students are the best because they talk about it. They go online and I had sushi and then I saw this movie, and anything in their lives they lather about. If they like something, they're the best. They're like radio-free college students, just ping, 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 ping. So that's you're filming for thousands of people doing a 2-week college tour up the coast of Southern California, and that's a lot of IMDb ratings and chat rooms and eyeballs, and maybe that spurns something down the road. When your DVD comes out, there's more awareness for the film.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's always.
I know if it works.
Yeah. No. Taking it, being able to implement it, and the follow through and all that. But that we appreciate that, Paul. And so coming back to official rejection. After the IMDb Without a Box, sort of Amazon release. How did you then roll it out from there? And then, looking back at it now, how do you view, the release as a whole?
I think we did okay. I would get emails from filmmakers that I did. I mean, when you get emails from people you don't know about the movie, they're really enthusiastic and they're thanking you for making it, and they say things like, I didn't realize you were making my biography. How come I'm not in it? And stuff like that. You've connected with them that way. It's really gratifying. And so we got the film out to a lot of people. But I get emails like this. I'd see, I'm from a small town in Texas. There's about 20 of us indie filmmakers here. I bought your movie and I loved it. We're all going to share the DVD and watch it over and over. And I'm like, can you all buy your own? My core audience is always broke, and they know how to rip stuff. So I'm glad they saw it, but we're still in the red on that movie too. I think it was a success. I mean, I'm known more for that movie than for anything else. It got me a gig writing for Movie Maker, and I go to film festivals, and it's funny. I go to festivals even when I don't have a movie. Some of my favorites, like Phoenix, and I'm standing there, and people are talking about Official Rejection. They're talking to me. Have you seen Official Rejection? It really talks about, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. It's kind of cool. So it's out there. I found out that through a festival director, through Bruce Fletcher, who he's in Official Rejection. He actually was running San Francisco Indie, and he ended up running Idaho International. And he told me, he said, I was in Toronto, and there was a bunch of us festival directors from around the country all kind of hanging out in this bar, and the subject of your film came up, and they'd all seen it. And it was a very heated discussion. Some were very much offended, some were very much in favor of it, and it was really a thing. And I said, really, well, which ones? Who was talking about it? And he goes, I can't tell you. Because it was a lot of them. There's no way you submitted to all of them, which means they were illegally copying your screener and passing it around. So I can't add to their crimes for you. That was interesting. They were all kind of circulating it amongst themselves. And he goes, oh, you guys are infamous. Oh, they all know you. They're all blah, blah, blah. That was kind of cool. That was actually one of the most gratifying things to hear, was that we made a difference. But you know what? Also I think it was I counted at one point like 20 festivals at some point contacted me and said they changed the way they do things based on the movie. Either a few things major, mostly small things. Mostly, like one festival said, we decided our swag bags suck. So we tried to find things that were at least a little useful to put in there, like pens or something, and not just all ads from our sponsors. One festival said that they had 2 theaters. They had a really nice one and a really crappy one. And they realized that some films were getting relegated only to the crappy one. And they, after seeing our film and seeing some of the crappy venues films were played in, they said, we're going to make sure everybody gets at least one opportunity to play the good theater. And there were things like that. So I think we did a little bit of good out there. I think we made festival people, programmers and directors and staff at least aware of how what the filmmaker's point of view is, how we feel. That's really all the film was meant to be for them. Was, yeah, they know how festivals work, but this is what we experience, and these are the emotions that we go through, for better or for worse. And I think we were able to make an impact there as well.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that your sort of demographic for at least official rejection was people that didn't have a lot of money and knew how to rip things. And we've always joked around that we should make a film that's about like golfing that pertains to like 60-year-old like nudie fund managers or something, that people that and we know other people that have a demographics that do have more money. So it's interesting that if you really wanted to make a film based on what niche you're going to sell it to, it's hard because we all love indie film. We all are interested in acting and things like that, and typically those are people that don't have a lot of discretionary income to spend. So it's very true.
Right. I think the $1 price point, or the $2 price point, whatever you want to call it on your side, is actually quite wise for that reason. It's like, I could rip it, but if I get this one button, it's $1. I can watch it. Okay, there you go. I think that's good. There's value in being pirated. There is. It's been written about. Lloyd Kaufman's a big get pirated. It's a great deal. Blah blah blah. I mean, there's value in it because you get seen, and if people like your work, they'll come back again. They'll buy merchandise. They'll pay for your next film, or they'll spread the word, and those people will pay for this. Yeah, there's certainly some value in it, but make a film for like old white guys, and then you got to release it on VHS or Betamax so they can actually watch the damn thing.
Right, cigar aficionados. Yeah.
Exactly. It comes. You get the film. It comes with a snifter.
Exactly.
Let's pick some port and watch this pithy thing about. Yeah, whatever. That's my old British white man with money.
And Paul,
I don't know why he's British. He shouldn't be.
Okay, can you offer any insights? I mean, because here you are, you're paying attention to this campaign. We're sure that you're paying attention to other things happening in with indies in regards to distribution. You're rounding the corner on getting your film done. Can you offer any insights in terms of what you may be thinking? Your path ahead. I've done the festival circuit twice now, and I've developed relationships with a good score of festivals that are they're not the A-list, they're not market festivals, they're not Sundance, they're not South by Southwest, but there's festivals like Phoenix and Dead Center and Fort Lauderdale International and there's a score of them that I've got a good relationship with that I can go to, and for the most of them I can get them the rate of the fee. And if not, they'll certainly at least take me more seriously. And I've sort of got that path. And Blaine Weaver is the lead actor in my film, so he's got a bunch as well. So there's a bunch of festivals we can actually go to and sort of come in as a known quantity. I'm hoping to do a circuit that way. And these are festivals that have good audiences. Like if you go to Sundance, hey, that's great, but your screening is going to be full of people from the industry, producers and journalists, and it's going to be full of distributors and whatnot. But if you go to Phoenix Film Festival, you're going to have a full theater full of actual movie fans who actually buy DVDs and actually watch things on iTunes, people who are going to consume your movie down the road. That actually accomplishes what a real theatrical release accomplishes. So I'm hoping to do a solid. We'll see how they respond to the film. They may hate the movie, and then I'll have to rethink it. But the plan is to start there. Now, where we roll out from there, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Blu-ray, so I definitely want to try to do a Blu-ray. But we'll see where it goes. I hate to say I'm doing a little bit of the traditional wait and see. If we get into festivals and we can do a good score of them, then maybe we talk to some of these aggregators like Film Buff and there's other ones out there that get us into iTunes. Maybe we do a day and date. I don't know, but we'll see how it goes from there. I think it's hard to sort of plan too much because, one, you don't know how the world's going to react to your film at all. I mean, you certainly can know that if your film doesn't have big stars and didn't have, wasn't developed at the Sundance Institute and doesn't have, John Sloss pushing it as a sales agent, you certainly know you're not going to get into Sundance, you're not going to get into the major festivals, or you're probably not going to get into the major festivals. But you don't know how, say, a rank and file good regional festival is going to respond to the movie. They may go, yeah, not for us. Like, I think Goodbye Promise may not be a festival movie because it has got a very niche audience for it, at least in terms of the sell.
which they have to be concerned with. They have to get people in the theater. You know, once if they can get them in there by force, they may like it, but you got to get them to come in voluntarily. It may not be a festival movie, or it may be a film that people respond to negatively because it's kind of dark. I don't know. So it's hard to know what our circuit's going to be, and it's hard to know how those aggregators are going to respond. We may want to be in a situation where we are selling Blu-rays right outside the theater door. I don't know yet. It's hard to predict until you know what the value of your movie is in terms of other people. So I'm hoping to get a better gauge on that, and once we do, we'll come up with some sort of strategy.
Yeah, we got cut off just for a second there, and so we're back up, and I guess we're just going to go ahead and just essentially wrap this conversation up. Karen, do you have any final questions for Paul?
Well, I think what's been the biggest eye-opener of this whole thing with your two films, what's kind of been the thing that you were really surprised about? Or maybe there was no surprises, you just kind of wanted to go along on the journey and see what happened?
No. I'm constantly surprised. You never know where the distributors are going to come from. It's always something. It's always, the distributor doing what they did when they did it, or, the fact that sadly, one of the biggest eye-openers is an official rejection. The idea that, I think every filmmaker with their first film goes through that, because we all hear the Sundance myth. That was true in 1994 for 1% of the population, and now it's true for, 0.0001 maybe if they went to the Sundance Institute. Was that, you're not necessarily judged on the value of your work. That the work isn't enough, and that was a big eye opener, and I think it's always true, but even more and more, I'm always surprised how much more you have to put into it that isn't just the movie itself. There's supporting it, and there's having there's all the political things, knowing the right people, and that's a whole other side of you. And I think, sadly, a lot of times we forget that we're supposed to be making movies, and we get caught up in that other stuff. We get caught up in being the filmmaker's politician and glad handing and trying to do these things. And it's sad, because at the end of the day, making the best movie really is the best way to sell it if you can present it on the right platter. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you have people who are completely consumed with crowdfunding and distribution and iTunes and all these things, and getting Twitter followers and writing little blogs, and they're supposed to be making movies, and they're not. Yeah. So that's something I think that's
great.
It's disappointing, and I hope that people remember, oh yeah, making films. Right. Let's ask Lucas McNally where his movie is. He shot his last film. He shot Upcountry, before he even started The Year Without Rent. Where is that movie? Where is it? Where is it, Lucas? Where is it? I see you on Twitter a lot. I'm bored. I'm going to drink something. Okay, hey, you're not helping Four of a Kind, which I thought was great. You can also maybe, finish your movie. Where is it? I think picture was locked when you were here, working on Favors, my gaffer.
No,
I love Lucas. I like to rib Lucas every once in a while. He's a good guy.
I understand that. And I think we all fall prey to it. It's sort of like this new world, this new indie space, and we're all trying to find our way, and it comes with these added responsibilities, and it's challenging. It's become just a time suck on one hand, a mind screw on another. It's wow. All over the place. Yeah.
Well, and social media is still so new that there's very few. I mean, it's just now coming into play, all these new sort of the etiquette protocol. We were listening to a podcast today, David Siteman Garland. He does Rise to the Top, and he said so many times, people hit him up, hey, love your show, David, and he'll tweet him back, great, and then they'll go, oh, by the way, can you tweet out my project? And there's all these things, and we're all kind of feeling out our spot in this social media world, and it's very new, and yeah, but I hear what you're saying, and it's agreed.
Yeah. Look, all those things are important. That's my point, is that the work isn't enough to stand on its own, but it still has to be good, or you should still try to make it good. You still need to light the scene properly and think about the right pacing for your movie and the first act, and where's the score going to come in and out, and you still have to do all those things. Working with the actor, casting it correctly, getting the script right. That's all still as important as it ever was, because at the end of the day, if that doesn't work, none of the other stuff's really going to matter, or should matter. Right. But you still have to worry about social media. Fortunately, I really enjoy being on Twitter. I resisted it. I didn't want to get on it. I actually really love it. That's the best place to find me. Not a big fan of Facebook. It's okay. I don't mind it, but Twitter's where you find me hanging out. But even if you don't like it, I think you still need to do it, you know. And I think doing things like Film Courage, or doing ancillary things and playing the game and making relationships, those are all so important. But oftentimes, because we deal with those every day, we don't necessarily shoot a movie every day. You tend to forget the important thing is the core of it all. You're supposed to be a filmmaker, and that's really, the tail can wag the dog so easily. And I think that's really finding that balance and not forgetting that, and also not being enamored with your Twitter following. Like, I love my tweets, and I have a fairly sizable following. It's 1,600 and change right now. It's not huge, but I mean, it's not unrespectable. It's not bad. But how many of those are actually film-consuming civilians, non-filmmakers, non-journalists? How many of them are filmmakers? Especially since my last film appealed largely to filmmakers. If I tweet about, Favor's playing, 2 weeks from now in Phoenix or whatever, great, but how many of them are actually going to, how relevant is that to my Twitter feed at this point?
Sure. Well, I mean, some of them could be porn bots. I mean, now we're caught up with this clout score, which is just a huge waste of time. But I know there's people that would debate me on that. But it's a manufactured competition, and I'm so tired of it. But real quickly before we go, and I know you have something to add. What is it about Facebook that you don't like versus Twitter? And then we'll wrap it up.
Here's the thing I like about Facebook, or I don't like about Facebook, is it used to be chronologically organized. Like, the newest thing was the top of your newsfeed. Now it's not. Now it's more randomly assigned. It's like whatever's pertinent or trending, or I don't even know how they determine it. And then with timeline, it's even worse. Like, at least the things on my personal page now they're all jumbled also. And the fact that you have a Facebook fan page for your movie, and you blast something and it only reaches 10% of the people because unless they happen to tweet on your page that week, they're not fully engaged, and then you have to promote it, and they're trying to get you to pay for it, and it's just a mess. I mean, it's really, what's great about Twitter is I know that if I go on at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time, the majority of my tweets will be on, and I tweet something, the majority of them will see it. There's value in that. And I can have a conversation at that time. And, Facebook takes it all out of your hands, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what the purpose is. I think it's in order so that things that are promoted can bubble to the top, and you have less control. I'm not sure if this thing is that nefarious, or they just thought it'd be fun to make it more chatty. But I find it really frustrating that if I go onto Facebook at a certain time and I post something, no one sees it till 2 o'clock in the afternoon if they see it at all. I find that extremely frustrating. And Twitter is so much more immediate, and it's I don't know. I like the interface a lot better. Google Plus is horrible, by the way. It's just been I signed up for it with you guys, and I'm like, I've seen nothing but ads for like Google sponsored bands and crap. Screw that. Come on. Anti-social media. That's the Google Plus. So, except for this chat function, which barely works and crashed on us.
Yeah, I think there's a screenshot of me grimacing and Dave smiling. So it's that's really attractive. Great.
Oh man.
Oh, we're back.
All
Okay,
right.
finally.
Am I live?
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it.
That's a sign from the Google gods.
Yeah, that's a sign.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Hey, Google.
Paul,
we had fun,
you.
Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Thank you, guys.
Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out on Labor Day.
Yeah.
Happy
grilling.
Yeah, happy grilling. Happy fun time with the family.
Yes.
We send our best to you, and we look forward to connecting with you in the upcoming months as you begin this rollout of Favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. That would be great, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for thinking of us, and thanks for taking time out for me on your Labor Day also.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We're usually just behind our computers. That's us.
Just working away.
I'm on this little guy.
Okay, right.